And welcome to the Factor Uncensored. First up tonight, a former El Campo, Texas police officer fired, arrested, and accused of sexual assault. He's now filed a lawsuit, civil lawsuit, claiming he was wrongfully accused. Freddie Douglas is at the center of this situation. He and his friend, John Marks, were arrested last December. Both of them were accused of raping a woman known as Amanda Shipley. However, Douglas says the sex was 100% consensual on all ends. He also says home security footage will prove his innocent. Here's a look at the moment investigators noticed the camera.
Well, I hope they don't, if this dude has he might try to come out for us that it was legit, not true.
So my reason on why I would have gotten an arrest warrant had this happened in Victoria County, or all this is reported still, right? Probably.
Yeah.
Now, a grand jury refused to indict the officer and his friend after seeing the video evidence. That means the criminal charges or the case both were dropped. We have since reached out to the city of Manville and the Manville Police Department for a statement, and here's what they told the Factor Uncensored. Following the arrest, several false or misleading allegations were made against the police department. Sadly, these destructive narratives only serve to divide our residents and have no place in our community. The Manville Police Department works to uphold the highest standards of the law enforcement profession, and the outcome of this legal action will demonstrate that we have held to these standards. Joining us to talk about it, Freddie Douglas and his attorney, Mike KRIV. Glad to have you here on the Factor. So, Mike, when you found yourself arrested in handcuffs as a law enforcement officer, what was that feeling like, first of all, to you?
I was surprised. I was shocked. I didn't expect it, and again, I just didn't expect it. It was totally shocking to me, and it shouldn't have happened. And in the limits that you can, take us back to that day, that evening, what it may have been. And what was the situation? Did she come over with her free will, or did you invite her? What? And what was the relationship before that instance? She came over on her free will. I had no relationship with her. My friend knew her. I had no relationship with her, and she came over on her own will.
And what happened after that? And not to get into all the details, it is the uncensored, but not that uncensored.
Right, right. Me and my buddy, we went to the Rockets game earlier during that day. She was communicating back and forth with my buddy about coming over later that night to swim, to hang out. That's when she came over later that night after we returned from the Rockets game. We all were in the pool. And things just went from there. As
they say, one thing led to another.
Right, right.
But as you're saying, it was consensual? 100%. There were cameras there?
100% consensual. There was cameras throughout the house, on the outside of the house. Totally consensual.
And when you had those handcuffs placed on you and your reputation tarnished, what was that like for you?
It was rough. It was the roughest time of my life. I lost everything. I lost my job. I lost my career, everything that I worked for. I lost my house. I had to sell my house, for
legal.
Correct. And there were some dark nights where I didn't think I was going to make it through it, and it took a toll on me. And
when you say you don't think you were going to make it through it, you thought about the ultimate.
Correct, correct. My mental was off at the time. It took a toll on my mental.
Did you ever ask yourself, how in the hell did I get here?
I did, multiple times. And I still ask myself that.
So when you heard the allegations, I mean, did you know the woman before? Or she was more familiar with your friend?
She was more familiar with my friend. I I didn't know her at all.
They had actually been in a relationship for quite some time.
And that being the friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
John Marks and her lived across the street from each other. She'd been coming across the street, spending the night for months. And he was very familiar with her, and she him. Yeah, but it was the first time Freddie had ever met her.
And so, all of a sudden, what do you think happened? What do you think occurred that would make her make these allegations against you? And we'll get to the police department with you, Mr. Korinsky, in a second. But what do you think happened with her that made her say these things?
I think she felt guilty about what she did. She was really in love with my friend, and I think that she knew after that there was no going back as far as like ever having a long-time relationship with my friend. And I think that was
meaning if there's a threesome, then there's something that's lost.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure she thought that she would never be able to be with him as a long-time partner.
Okay. And so let's talk about the police department. They sent us their statement. We heard what they had to say in this. One of the things we heard from your client was they took her word and that was it, and didn't do the investigation required by a law enforcement agency. Is that accurate?
That's right. That mentioning by the chief there in Manville that they hold the highest standards of professionalism, that's going to be proven false. They never interviewed Freddie or John before they arrested them. They never asked them for their side of the story. But when they did, within minutes, they knew that the entire event was recorded on this home surveillance camera system. In fact, just before the clip that you showed earlier where the police say, oh no, we don't want to talk on camera, they had just been notified by text at John Mark's home on the day of the arrest while they're doing the search, where they were asked if they could get the surveillance video as part of their search warrant. They knew from day one that there was exculpatory evidence, and yet they continued to persecute John and Freddie all the way from December to March when the grand jury finally said, stop, this is wrong.
And what did the grand jury see or hear to make the difference in this case where your client was not criminally indicted, even though he was charged by police?
You know, grand jury proceedings are secret. And so I would be breaking that to tell you anything I might suspect that they saw. But they were thorough. They looked at, we believe, all the evidence. We know that Freddie and John's defense lawyers, criminal defense lawyers, made all the evidence available, including that surveillance tape. Now, whether they looked at it or not, that's secret. But we do know that their decision was decisive, and they instructed the police in Manville to stop this prosecution in the form of what is called a no bill.
Got it. Exactly. And of course, we'll continue with the conversation in just a minute here on The Factor Uncensored. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Continuing our coverage of a lawsuit brought on by former El Campo police officer, Freddie Douglas. He says his life was ruined by claims he and his friend raped a woman last year. He's here with his attorney, Mike Korinsky. Glad to have you here both on The Factor Uncensored. So Freddie and Mike, are you guys ready to say this could be a police department listening to the word of a white woman involving two black men?
I'm going to address that for Freddie, if you don't mind.
Got it. Absolutely.
Look, you know, right now, we don't have any evidence one way or the other. We will investigate that part of the case. But I'll say this about that right now. If you're looking for a plausible explanation for all the things the Manville Police Department didn't do that they should have, and did do that they shouldn't have done, in coming to the conclusion to arrest Freddie and John, the most plausible explanation is that they had the word of a white woman against two black men. And I spent a career working on racial discrimination cases and on trying to understand the mind of the white racist, because that's who I deal with. And a white racist mind cannot conceive of a white woman having consensual sex with a black man. Just can't think of it, can't understand it. So when they hear these accusations from a white woman, the idea that it might be consensual never occurs to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most plausible explanation, but we're going to have to
Were
find
you
evidence.
shocked when you had the opportunity to cross-examine, depose individuals and realize that as a white person?
Yes, it was a learning and eye-opening experience for me through my career to understand that mindset. It's been a difficult thing. But I want to stress, in this case, the reason why, whether it's racial or some other reason, is not important to Freddie's successful pursuit of this case. The only question is, did they violate his civil rights by arresting him without probable cause? Did they lie to the magistrate to get the arrest warrant? And have they caused him damages? And whether they did that out of racism or they did that for some other unknown reason doesn't matter. It's just whether or not they did it.
And when we take a look at how they may have, according to the civil lawsuit, lied to the magistrate and violated his civil rights, hit those bullet points for us if you're able to, if you want to disclose it now, because obviously you have to do it in court.
Yeah, I've already done it. It's in the complaint that you can review, because you have to plead that. It was by omission and things that they did say. They did not tell the magistrate that they had not interviewed either John or Freddie. They did not tell the magistrate that they hadn't run this by the Brazoria County District Attorney's Office for approval. And they will probably testify that had they been consulted, the Brazoria County District Attorney, they would have never approved this arrest warrant in the first place. They did not tell the magistrate that there was video evidence. And why did they know? Even before they arrested John and Freddie, and they said, there's video of this whole thing showing we didn't have to do anything wrong.
Right.
Amanda told them that the house was wired with cameras in her interview with them. And they didn't tell the magistrate that there was video evidence that could confirm whether she was telling the truth or telling a lie. So it was principally by omission of not telling the magistrate things that would have given him pause, and said, well, once you find these things out, once you get the video, once you talk to the DA's office, then I'll consider signing this arrest warrant. And that's the kind of things, those are the kinds of things the Supreme Court of the United States has said erases the shield that the police get by getting a judge to say, you can arrest this guy.
Got it. We want to thank you guys for joining us. And of course, Freddie, we will continue to follow your case. Mike, thank you for coming as well.
Thank you.